That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
We got two trades. Going to talk about them as one this week because it is Sandman the Kindly Ones and Sandman the Waker. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it all as one piece. So the Kindly Ones is about the woman from the second volume of the Absolute Editions, at least, that was with the guy who had taken Sandman's name, the Jack Kirby character. It's about her who escaped from the dreaming and had a baby and everything. And Morpheus told her that at one point he will take her child because it was born in dreams and it belongs to him. And so when the child goes missing, she assumes that Morpheus took him, and she goes seeking vengeance, so she looks for the Kindly Ones, the Ravengers, well, she keeps calling them, like, they have a million different names. I don't know what they're, like, they call them a million different things. The Furies, that's it. They keep calling them the Furies and stuff, the ladies, whatever. Yeah, they call them a million different names, but yeah, the Furies is another one. And when she finally encounters them, they tell her, "Oh, we can't help you because we can only take vengeance on someone who spilt their son's blood," which gets back into the stuff that happened with Orpheus in the trade before the last one. With Morpheus killing his son as an act of mercy. And so they're like, but since he did that, we can. And so they go and attack the dreaming. And they start killing off all the different dreams and attacking all these characters that we've come to know and love, while Morpheus is trying to find a solution to it. And he sent the Corinthian, who he's recreated, to go find the boy, since he wasn't the one that took him, it was Loki that took him. And this all sounds fucking crazy as I describe it, but it's brilliant. Basically, Loki kidnapped the boy because he wanted to try and kill Morpheus, or get Morpheus to kill himself, rather. I'm not even going to bother describing it. It's too complex to describe. But in any case, this ends with Morpheus realizing that he has to take responsibility for his realm. That he doesn't have to, but he chooses to take responsibility for his realm, and that means that he must die. That the only way to save his realm, to save his friends in the dreaming, is for him to die. And the Furies won't kill him, because that's not what they do. They don't kill, they don't revenge, they ravage. They destroy everything you care about until you take your own life. And so that's what he does, is he has his sister end his life for him. But the boy that he had the Corinthians save, he gives him an emerald, and the boy becomes Dream of the Endless. Not Morpheus, Dream of the Endless. So it's almost like Doctor Who. It's incredibly like Doctor Who. Basically, Morpheus regenerates, which wraps everything up. We have Morpheus, who, the entire book, even after his capture, when this all started, but throughout the entirety of this book, Morpheus has been very, holier than thou, very pompous and high and mighty in several spots within this book and the last. We have what's the character's name? Mervyn. We have Mervyn claim that, the boss, Morpheus, he just spends too much time around those artsy fartsy types, those high minded types. He just needs some some good old quality time with me, you know, salt of the earth, working stiff kind of guy. That would straighten him right up. And so we get this very humbling experience for Morpheus throughout that's his character art throughout the entirety of the run up into this. Is that he has to not only talk about being responsible, which he lectures his brother on about having responsibility to your realm and blah blah blah, about taking care of things, but also just about learning to come down and face things as they are, and not act like you're above everything and everyone else, that you're a part of this world too, that you're gonna eventually pass, as all of us do. And that's where this ends, is Morpheus passes and a new dream of the Endless is born. He just has all Morpheus's memories and experiences. And he lets his sister take his life, or he has his sister take his life, so that his friends can live without suffering, so that he doesn't have to abandon his realm and responsibilities, but instead can stick with them and help his friends and just be the kind of person he wants to be. So that it's funny because I listened to Nostalgia Chick talk about she did loose canon videos that she's doing. She did Death, and she talked about Death of the Endless that Gaiman created. And she's like, Death, unlike her brother Morpheus, is very calm, very caring, very compassionate. And Morpheus is kind of just a douche that doesn't care at all about people. And that's what the run is about, is he certainly starts that way. And if you're, like, you know, you use the ants, or the human ants dynamic. I mean, do you really care what happens to an ant? Do you care about what an ant wants, or what kind of life an ant wants to lead? Of course not. And that's how Morpheus feels. But the entirety of the book is him learning that he isn't permanent. He might be called the Endless, but he's not. He has an end. Everything has an end. Nothing can last forever. And it's tragic, it's a moral of a story, it's literature. I keep talking about how annoyed I am that people keep saying things that I think and that I thought were original. Where is it? Here's Gaiman's closing of The Kindly Ones. I still do not know how successful The Kindly Ones was, how close I got, or how far I came from what I set out to say. Still, it's the heaviest of these volumes, and thus, in hardback at least, could undoubtedly be used to stun a burglar, which has always been my definition of real art. Damn it! I'm the one that said that you could kill someone or bludgeon someone to death with the absolute editions. Damn it, Neil Gaiman! Stop taking my ideas, people! Damn it! Stop thinking of them before I think of them, and then writing them down for me to find later after I think of them. It's not okay. It's fucking frustrating is what it is. So anyway, we have we just have this developing story that goes on, and everything happens how it does, and At the end, Dream dies, and in doing so, he learns his lesson that he's been learning since his capture in the beginning of the book. Because before that, he was even more higher than now, and the capture was very... it was humiliating, but it was also... moderating... humanizing, for lack of a better term. It was a very humanizing, very... It took him down a peg. And that's what his capture in the beginning of the volume did. And this shows him that he is subject to all things, just like all men are, just like all creatures are, for lack of a better word. And so... he regenerates. And we have a new Dream of the Endless. Which is where this picks up. The Wake. And this is the end of the story. This is where we say goodbye to all these characters and we wrap up most of the loose ends. There's one loose end from the second volume that I don't think got wrapped up, but to be fair, I haven't read all of the stuff Gaiman wrote in this time period, particularly with death, so I'll have to look into that. But yeah, this is essentially the funeral of Morpheus. The recreation of the dreaming as best it can, but some battle scars are still left. The funeral, the wake, everything that goes down. And Matthew the Raven isn't happy about this. He doesn't consider this new guy to really be Morpheus. No, he says he's not. Doesn't consider this new guy to really be Morpheus, but then he goes and he talks at the funeral, and that makes him realize that, yeah, this guy is still the same, but he needs help now. He needs help to figure out what exactly happened to him and how he's going to live with this and how he's going to change because of it. Yeah, but a lot of things are just kind of wrapped up here. We figured out the history between some of these characters, and we just get, like I said, a lot of loose ends taken care of, including some fantastic, like, we get Destruction comes back into it. It's a really somber thing in the first half. It's hard to read at times because you just kind of feel yourself choking up a little bit. You know, this character that you've come to know and love has moved on. And then the last half of the book is just all these different loose ends. So we get a story about Hob, who kind of comes to terms with his continued existence, and he still just doesn't want to die. Even though, like, all the things that he's seen happen and all the friends he's lost along the way, he still wants to go on with it. And he's dating a black girl now, which is really interesting because he used to be a big player in the slave trade. And he talks about having a dream in which Morpheus appeared. And then we have this issue that takes place in one of the soft places in a desert, wherein a Chinese advisor to the Emperor comes across Morpheus, and they have a conversation. He gives him advice, and then he goes out, continues in the soft place, walking through the desert, and crosses a bridge, and then comes into contact with the new Dream of the Endless, and it's just a conversation about learning to move on, to live with what you've experienced, what you've had happen to you. And the final issue is about Shakespeare and his final play in service to Morpheus, The Tempest. And it's about the end of Shakespeare's life, or not the end, but the latter half of Shakespeare's life, the last few years of Shakespeare's life, in which he's working on The Tempest, and they create the Guy Fawkes rhyme. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Shakespeare helps create the Guy Fawkes rhyme. I like that. And he finishes the play for Morpheus, and he asks him why he gave him the ability to create these great stories, these everlasting stories. And Morpheus tells him that I wanted a tale of graceful ends. I wanted a play with a king who drops his books and breaks his staff and leaves his kingdom. About a magician who becomes a man. About a man who turns up his back on magic. But this rough magic I have abjure. I'll break my staff, bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound, I'll drown my book. The idea that Morpheus wanted the ability to walk away from his responsibilities, but he would never allow himself that he found it too important to be the story, the king of stories, as he calls it. I find that incredibly fascinating, and it's incredibly heartbreaking that it is over. I know Gaiman's writing something else with Sandman right now, like a story that he never got to tell, I imagine. Honestly hope it's the new new Dream of the Endless, the white-haired one. But I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm going to wait till that's out in trade. I think that comes out in November. I'm going to pick it up then, because I have to be able to read that all at once. I couldn't do it month to month. But Gaiman had something at the end here, which I like. It's the shortest closing I've ever read. And I absolutely loved it. I've always been bad at goodbyes. In many ways, that's what these stories are about. The process of saying goodbye. My electronic address book contains a number of people who have died, friends and colleagues. Their names and their last known addresses are still sitting there. All it would take would be a press of the delete key to remove them. But that would be too final a goodbye, so they remain undeleted. That's something I have experience with. I have my dad's phone number still saved in my phone. And I just can't bring myself to get rid of it. I know I'm never going to call it again. I know I'm never going to see him again or anything like that. But I just can't make myself press that button. And to end a character like this must have been a really hard thing to do. Saying goodbye to anyone permanently is such a difficult thing. And so it's a very touching story. It's a very emotional, very personal story. And all I can really say is thanks, Gaiman. Beautiful work. Absolutely adored it. I'm going to pick up the next book soon. In a month or two. And Neil Gaiman is among my favorite writers. Guy is absolutely brilliant and did some amazing work in the 90s, and and on, and just a really great writer. And this Sandman is a fantastic series, and it truly is comic book literature. And I don't mean like it is literature of comic books. It is literature that is done in a comic book. And it proves that comic books can be literary, can have value. So not only is it amazing on its own, but it also proves like this stuffy point wrong, and that's fantastic. That's all I've got. Beautiful books. If you consider yourself, a comic book fan, you owe it to yourself to read Sandman. I feel like it's a requirement. Bye.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.